Alright, so recently Dana White announced the main event for UFC 315, Belal Muhammed versus Della Maddalena, which I think is a very strange matchup that kind of just came out of nowhere, and I want to talk about it. Let me know who you guys are picking in the main event, whether it's Belal Muhammed or Della Maddalena, and while you're down there, I'd appreciate if you could like and subscribe. We're so close to 550 subs. Anyway, let me get into it. I feel like Belal versus JDM is just such like a random and unnecessary fight to where every time I look at the poster, it just doesn't look right. It just looks like something's off, like one of those like Instagram meme matchups, you know? It's probably only me that thinks that, but I think the reason this fight just feels so weird is because JDM is getting the title shot before Shavkat. Like, after all the hype and everything with Belal versus Shavkat, and you know, it was booked and then it didn't happen, like, we're just not going to see the fight next. Like, I feel like it's so weird now. But on top of that, JDM just got pulled randomly from the Leon fight that was happening in like 3 weeks. Like, it feels so out of nowhere. But I do understand why this fight needed to happen, okay? Shavkat is injured and Belal Muhammed wants to stay active, which I think is really cool of Belal, okay? Despite me hating on him in the past because he's boring and stuff, he actually is a pretty good champ and he wants to fight his contenders rather than just moving up immediately, even though he's talking about moving up to middleweight for Islam, which is might be the craziest glaze I've ever heard in my life. But still, this guy wants to fight his top contenders instead of doing all these big money fights, and I'm really happy to see this. So I'm glad that Belal is staying active and JDM is the next most deserving contender other than Shavkat. So it does make sense for the context and for right now, but I still feel like overall it doesn't really make much sense for a couple reasons. My first reason being this fight probably will not have a lot of hype at all, okay? Because Belal has acknowledged this. Neither of these guys are trash talkers. There's not going to be much hype being built. There's not going to be a lot of shit talking. It's just two guys, and one of those guys is known for being boring. And you know, JDM, he is well liked, but I don't think JDM is this like crazy star that he's just going to bring a ton of fans into the arena. He's not like Conor McGregor. Like, that's probably not going to happen. This fight probably is not going to have a lot of hype going into it. And I think a big reason for this is because JDM really has not had any like standout contender performances. You know, Belal Muhammed, he kind of worked his way up. He didn't really have any either, but you know, he just beat so many guys that he deserved a title shot. But JDM hasn't done that. He hasn't cleared out a ton of guys. He's only really beat Gilbert Burns. I think that's the only ranked welterweight that he's beat. And on top of that, JDM hasn't really had this like standout win where it's like, bro, JDM, man, he needs to get a title shot right now, man. Like, he's never been able to show that he's like a top contender and, you know, deserves to fight for the title, which I think is going to make it kind of hard to sell this to people, because outside of the Belal fans and the JDM fans, I don't think the casual people are going to be coming, you know, oh man, Della Maddalena versus Belal Muhammed, I need to see this right now. Like, I doubt that's actually going to happen. This is going to be a very hard fight to sell since JDM doesn't really have, you know, that many highlights at a top level. Belal Muhammed has no highlights either. And it kind of just feels like, you know, JDM is, you know, I don't want to say getting fed to the wolves because, you know, it is Belal Muhammed. This is more like getting fed to like puppies. But, you know, like, he's never really shown that he's going to be able to beat Belal Muhammed. He hasn't really fought anyone with that style. He hasn't fought anyone at like at a crazy high level. Like the Gilbert Burns fight, that hasn't really aged that well considering Gilbert Burns immediately after that got 50-45 by Sean Brady. So that's kind of why I don't think it makes much sense, just because it's not going to get a lot of hype. It's going to be very hard to sell as well. I think if JDM did fight Leon Edwards, I think that was the perfect fight. Okay, like JDM versus Leon actually had a decent amount of hype. Okay, people really wanted to see that fight. I really wanted to see that fight. It was a very interesting fight. It was winnable for both people. Unlike this fight, it feels like Belal is just going to, you know, dominate him the way Belal dominates everybody, you know. It feels kind of rushed for JDM. He's never really proven that he can beat a guy with Belal's style. He hasn't shown it. Like, it's not even that he hasn't proven it. He just hasn't shown it at all. Like, there's no, you know, evidence that JDM is going to somehow just defend every single Belal takedown and knock him out in the first round. So yeah, in my opinion, this fight makes absolutely no sense, but I want to give an early breakdown for this fight. I think Belal is just going to have a classic Belal win and just smother JDM. JDM hasn't really shown the greatest takedown defense in his past couple fights, you know, and I think Belal is just going to be able to take him down pretty easily because Belal's takedowns are really, really good. He can take you down from basically anywhere, on the back foot, on the front foot. It doesn't really matter. So I think even if JDM pressures Belal, he should be able to do it just because JDM doesn't have like the craziest takedown defense. He's probably training it a lot right now, but considering he was just training for Leon, I don't think he's like had a long camp for Belal and just training takedowns. Like, Leon is primarily a striker, so I don't think JDM is just going to have this like insane takedown defense anytime soon. And I think Belal's boxing is good enough to just not get absolutely dominated on the feet and just chin, because JDM doesn't really have the craziest amount of power. Okay, he's not really knocking everybody out, so I don't think JDM is also just going to go in there and just chin Belal, because I'm sure there's some people that think that's going to happen. I'm not saying JDM like can't win at all. I think he actually can win. There's a decent chance because, again, Belal's striking isn't the best. Maybe he can just like chin Belal, but it's not going to happen early on. I don't think this is going to be in the first 3 rounds at all. I think JDM, if he finishes Belal, it's going to be in the 4th or 5th, and he's just going to catch Belal while he's coming in or something. And I think he can fluke a KO maybe, but I just think there's 2 ways this fight goes, and it's either going to be Belal by decision or Belal dominates the entire fight and then JDM gets a random finish. Like, that's the only 2 ways I really see this fight going. So I'm probably going to go Belal by decision by a 50-45. But there's 2 other things I want to talk about considering this matchup. I want to talk more about JDM and Belal, okay? I think JDM is very overrated, okay? This is insane to me. This has been weighing on my mind for the longest amount of time because JDM, he's so glazed and it just makes absolutely no sense to me. I feel like Bedtime MMA has just spread so much propaganda about this guy, saying that he should get a title shot before Shavkat. This guy's just getting hyped up like he's like Ilya Topuria, and it just makes no sense to me why JDM is getting this glaze. I like JDM. I'm not saying I hate him or anything or that he's a bad fighter. I think he's a very good fighter. I think he could stay top 5 for a very long time. He's shown a lot of heart. He's shown very good boxing. But like, bro, this guy's not going to somehow like chin Shavkat, chin Belal, just, you know, become the welterweight, middleweight GOAT. Like, it's just, this makes no sense. I don't get the glaze at all because look at JDM's like last couple fights. And it's not like just one fight he did bad. You know, like people were hating on Chimaev a lot because he had like a mid performance against Usman, and you know, I think that's really stupid to say, but like, bro, JDM hasn't just had like one, you know, like a very bad performance or anything. It's been like almost 3 performances in a row now, okay? You just look at his win streak, bro. Split decision against Basil Hafez. Bro, Basil Hafez, how are you going to a split decision with Basil Hafez? This guy is genuinely terrible. Basil Hafez, if you don't know, this guy went to a split decision with Mickey Gall, bro. Like, seriously, bro. Basil Hafez is having close fights with Mickey Gall and got knocked out by Oban Elliott. Like, it just, when you look at that, it's just kind of like, bro, how is JDM getting glazed this much to where people are like, bro, this guy beats Shavkat, this guy beats Belal? Like, I don't get it at all. Because then after this, he goes to a split decision with Kevin Holland. Bro, Kevin Holland, again, look at Kevin Holland where he's at right now. He has not been doing good at all. He's not like this top welterweight anymore. Like, he's just fine. And JDM went to a split decision with him. And then you look at the Gilbert Burns fight, and I don't want to say it's like a fluke, but the guy basically got dominated the entire fight and then found like one knee like in the last 2 minutes. Like, seriously, I don't think JDM is like this crazy contender. Again, I think he's very good, but I don't think he's like at the level that everyone is saying he is. Like, I feel like, again, I feel like it's Bedtime MMA. Like, I swear to God, bro, if JDM wasn't Australian and this guy was like from Croatia or something, his name was like, let's just say Sergey, okay? Because I truly believe that the reason this guy is glazed so much is because he's Australian. Like, it makes no sense to me how people are picking this guy. Like, I've seen so many people say that JDM would beat Shavkat. Like, based on what? Like, that's such a random, like, dumb pick, bro. JDM is getting taken down by Gilbert Burns, bro. He's getting controlled on the ground by Gilbert Burns, who genuinely looked like an NPC in his last fight against Sean Brady. And I know it's a different stylistic matchup, but, like, still, it's still not a good look. I genuinely don't understand how people were picking this guy to beat Shavkat when Shavkat is like a granite chin. He's taking down people. He's finishing all his opponents. Meanwhile, JDM is going to a split decision with everybody. Like, bro, Basil Hafez. How are you going to a split decision with Basil Hafez? I will never understand that. But the final thing I want to talk about, and again, I just want to say this before I go into Belal. I'm not hating on JDM. I'm not saying he's terrible or anything. I think he's just being seriously overrated when people are saying that JDM beats Shavkat and beats Belal, when he's never shown that level of skill to, you know, beat guys like that, those dominant grapplers, and he's never even shown like the knockout power at a high level to chin guys like Shavkat. It just really makes no sense to me. But I do want to talk about Belal because, you know, even though I hate Belal, you know, Belal remembered the boring Muhammad, he actually is a really good champ. I actually enjoy him as a champion. I think he's pretty interesting, you know, not his fighting style, but the guy is willing to fight anybody, and I think that actually deserves respect. You know, as much as we hate on Belal, that is a very respectable thing that I think more people need to do, because defending against a top contender is like almost impossible for these guys nowadays. I mean, Leon Edwards like took like 5 years to actually fight Belal Muhammad. It takes ages, bro. And Marab is talking about fighting like Sean O'Malley in like Miami or whatever he was saying, instead of just like directly calling out Umar. It's just like, it's so annoying nowadays, and I'm glad Belal is actually doing this. I think it's really cool for him. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm sure a lot of people crashed out at like me calling JDM overrated. Like, I think I made a video about this ages ago, why I think like Shavkat beats JDM, and like, bro, people were crashing out in the comments. It was actually crazy. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Bye.
Finna take that lounge truck to Japan. I'm like, little nigga, get your bag.